Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to have two brave doctors that went to Gaza and were in the crosshairs of Israel as they tried to sew up the victims of Israel's genocide to the best of their ability. They are also on the movie the documentary American Doctor. We have Dr. Thayer Ahmad and Feroz Sidwa back for a second time, as a matter of fact. Feroz is here again. First time you were here, there was another camera in the room.
Yeah.
And apparently that made it to the American Doctor, the documentary that's right. Out in select theaters in the United States and also Canada. Thank you so much for coming, guys, and thank you for all your brave work. Very excited to have you. It's a real honor to have you here. You know what? Let's start with the trailer. Also, you turned off my cams for some reason, Hannah. Okay, we turned it back on. We're good. All right, let's start here.
Take you through what Gaza looks like when the hospital's totally overwhelmed. You're getting waves of patients. What do you prioritize? What do you have to treat them? You got no pain medicine to give the people whose legs have been blown off.
3 surgeons all working on one little girl for, 2.5 hours? And she's probably going to lose her right leg, and her left arm.
And she's starting to wake up. Let's get her warm. As a Jewish physician, I knew nothing about Gaza. Like most Americans, I thought everybody out here were nothing but terrorists because that's what I was told.
I'm not Israeli, I'm not Palestinian, I'm not Christian, I'm not Muslim, I'm not Jewish. I don't really have any connection to it. But as an American, I just don't want my government involved in crimes.
I'm a Palestinian. I'm not a spokesperson. I'm a human being. I'm a U.S. doctor who wants to see babies like my babies not be killed anymore.
What surprised me most was how the carnage was focused on journalists, healthcare workers, and children. This bomb. Where was that?
That bomb hit the building.
There was a 15-year-old kid ready for discharge that was incinerated.
And if I had gone down and been changing that kid's dressing, there would have been 3 bodies, and I would have been one of them.
When they hit a hospital, that's a deep tragedy that people will feel in the community for the foreseeable future. We're just asking that hospitals not be targeted. Why that conversation is derailed in the United States is beyond me.
We do not have to accept that as Americans.
The United States could stop sending jet fuel, bombs, all sorts of weapons. This is a political problem. We need a political solution.
We're a good pair. You talk intelligently and I talk emotionally.
It's on us to make sure that their stories are told. I couldn't go to Palestine. I got rejected. And then I come back to the United States and get detained by the Department of Homeland Security.
This is what my tax dollars did. What your tax dollars did. What my neighbor's tax dollars did. They have the right to know the truth. Feroz is the right one to listen to. He is about fairness, and he is about doing the right thing.
You know we're not dating, right? You don't have to talk me up this much. I just met her 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's from Watermelon Pictures, and it's available in select theaters in the United States and Canada. I'm going to briefly intro both of you guys, and it's going to be awkward because I'm doing it while you're right here. But Dr. Thayer Ahmad is a Palestinian-American emergency medicine specialist based in Chicago. In April 2024, he made international headlines when he directly confronted President Joe Biden in a private White House meeting, handing him a handwritten letter from an orphaned 8-year-old girl in Rafah before walking out in protest of continued American military aid to Israel. And Feroz Sidwa, who's been on the broadcast before, is a trauma, acute care, and critical care surgeon from North Carolina who has authored some of the most searing forensic accounts of the war, including organizing a 99 signatory open letter to the White House and a landmark New York Times survey of 65 healthcare workers documenting children shot in the head and chest. Both of you guys, alongside Jewish American orthopedic surgeon Dr. Mark Perlmutter, are the primary subjects of this new documentary titled American Doctor, directed by Posey Tang, which premiered at Sundance and is currently being released by Watermelon Pictures. This was, of course, filmed under treacherous conditions, under genocidal conditions, under direct bombardment inside the Khan Yunis Nasser Hospital by local cinematographers. The film tracks you guys from emergency wards lacking basic anesthesia to the halls of Capitol Hill, exposing what happens when American doctors return home to tell the truth about what our tax dollars are funding. I personally find it very interesting that it featured 3 totally separate realities coming together, right? Realities of social conditioning. Dr. Perlmutter is a Jewish American doctor. So that totally shaped his perspective on Israel. You're Palestinian. It shaped your experience going into Gaza and then coming back from Gaza as well, because I know that there were some issues allowing you in to your ancestral homelands, ironically enough. And you're Zoroastrian, right? Or is that true?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, that's
I mean,
like,
I was born that way, but
okay, so like it's 3 totally unique American perspectives from all around the country, and you guys are united by your follow through on the Hippocratic Oath. You want to save lives, you want to help people, and you find yourself in Gaza, and then after that, your struggle and your work continues. You come to the United States of America, and you find out that the depravity doesn't end with the actions of Israel. Our own government is also turning a blind eye to these atrocities. So yeah, let's start here. So Postang is not here, so I'm going to skip the question that I was going to direct to her.
Nice.
And I'm going to ask you guys. Post said she wanted to make a real life medical drama like Pitt or Grey's Anatomy, except it's set in Gaza. So how did your experiences, like what were you expecting to experience when you actually got to Gaza, and how did your lived experiences change? Like how did your expectations get subverted by reality?
Well, I mean, I've been going to Gaza, the West Bank, all of Palestine for over 15 years. In 2009, the Israelis carried out Operation Cast Lead. They killed 1,200 Palestinians, 300 of them were kids. And I entered through Egypt at that time. I thought that was the worst thing I'd ever seen. I mean, it's really what made me go to medical school. This idea that, you could potentially do some help when there is this really sophisticated army deciding it's going to turn its guns and its weapons towards kids. And I will tell you, Hasan, since then, I went multiple times to Gaza. When I entered in 2024, it was unrecognizable. I mean, you're coming in through Rafah, between the border between Egypt and Palestine, and it's tent city in what's usually a rural town. And there's no electricity anywhere. And, the bombs are just so close. We both have worked in different conflict settings. I mean, I've been in Syria. I went to Lebanon, been in, Jordan. We know how it is to operate when there's a war. This was too close. I mean, every time a bomb drops, the building is shaking. You hear the gunfire. It's blocks away. And it's just it just shows you that the Israeli military was operating in a densely populated area, and it was willing to have as many civilian casualties as possible. In fact, I think we both would argue that was part of the objectives of the war, is to make the casualties so heavy and the numbers so high that either Palestinians would be ethnically cleansed or they would die, in their homeland.
yeah, like for me, I've also been involved. I wasn't born Palestinian, obviously, but I've been involved with the Israel-Palestine conflict since I was 18. And I think I started editing books on the topic in 2004. So I think up from 19, I guess probably 69 or 70 up until 2004, I'm pretty sure I've read every human rights report in the English language on that's ever come out, and plenty of them since then. So I knew about the shooting of children. I knew about the shooting of civilians. I knew about, and especially after Cast Lead, like you mentioned, Human Rights Watch had a report called White Flag Killings, where they, very matter-of-factly described the killing of, I forget, several dozen families walking down the street with white flags, almost exclusively women and children. And so I knew that was going on, but then seeing it in person at European Hospital when I was there the first time, March and April of 2024, which is just a month after you, right? And you were at Nasser at that time, yeah. But seeing it in person, and I kept a diary while I was there, and then when I left, maybe a few weeks later, a Washington Post reporter asked me for the diary, so I was like, sure. And I hadn't even thought about it at that time, but so she asked me, how many children did you see shot while you were there? And I was like, I don't know. So I went through and counted it in 14 days, really 13 days of clinical work. I recorded that I saw 13 kids shot in the head or the chest. I probably saw more, but there were times when our hands were just like soaked in blood, couldn't pull your phone out to record something. So yeah, seeing that up close, it definitely does something to you. But more importantly, knowing that you're responsible for it. We're paying for it. We're funding, we're funding it. We're providing the arms. We're providing the diplomatic support. That's what gets to me.
Man, one thing I'll tell you that really it still sticks with us. I mean, I work in a trauma center in Chicago. He works in Stockton. We see trauma all the time. Mm-hmm. But when the hospital gets overwhelmed like that and they're just dropping bodies off onto the floor, it's, that the attacking of human dignity is so tough to deal with. I mean, we have so many moments where you're just kind of sitting there. And Tariq Lubani, he's a Canadian ER doctor. He said something once and it broke my heart because it's exactly what I was feeling. And he articulated it in a way. He said, all the humanity that you can give, all that compassion that you can give in Palestine and Gaza, it can only happen after the patient is already dead. So these kids that they're laying on the floor of the ER, these 10-year-olds, these 11-year-olds, the whole time you're trying to work on them and you're just being so aggressive and it almost feels so violent. And then when you realize that they're dead and there's nothing that you can do, that's the moment where you realize your own humanity and you're trying to give some sort of love or compassion, but they're already gone. I mean, that was recurring every single day in Gaza.
Yeah. We had a kid that probably 14 years old. He was brought in with like the most extensive pelvic injuries you can imagine. And I did the operation I did on him was the most extensive operation I've ever done on a live human being.
Camera angles.
And
Swamp him.
I just could not believe what was going on with this kid. And when we saw him, we were like, he's definitely going to die. There's no way he's going to live. It's like it would be hard for him to live at USC or at Mass General, but here in Gaza, he's clearly going to die. But he was also awake, so it was like, what do we do? Do we just put him in a corner and let him die because he's not bleeding anymore? So he's going to die of sepsis in 3 days. Versus, do we take him to the OR because they're not going to just you're not going to inject him with drugs to kill him. You're not going to strangle him. So it's like you're saying, there's almost no dignity and humanity until death relieves you of your worldly ability to feel. It's just it's a wild place. It really is.
Dr. Tar, despite holding the same American medical credentials and board certifications as your colleagues, you faced severe bureaucratic hurdles, bureaucratic obstruction, and repeated entry denials by Israeli authorities when you attempted to return on subsequent medical missions. You were also harassed when you returned to the United States. How does the political screening of healthcare workers function as a tool to seal off Gaza and eliminate independent witnesses?
Yeah, I mean that's all a part of the objectives here. I think one thing, and you had one of them on your stream actually, Big Mo, the beast from the Middle East.
Yeah.
He's the man. Yeah,
I've had multiple now. I mean, I got one of you guys elected in the office.
That's right, Adam's
the man.
We're a cohort now of people that we've been working together trying to organize, but we have a subgroup of Palestinians who are healthcare workers who all of us on this WhatsApp group now have continuously been denied. And there was a point now, and this was I actually get really frustrated talking about this. But there was a moment in 2024, late 2024, all of these nonprofits and NGOs that were saying, "Hey, we need doctors, let's bring them in." They would have a line in there, and they would say, "Not if you have any Palestinian ancestry or heritage, do not apply with us because you're going to get rejected." And so that was that's literally a part of the scheme.
That was an official communication coming from the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Your dad or your mom or your grandparents are Palestinian, you cannot come in. I mean, reading that,
just the thing that's so frustrating about it is it's so obviously an apartheid. It's so obviously a fascist, ethno-supremacist formation that we're funding and facilitating unconditionally. And there are so many liberals who defend it. And they even defend it when they find out about the truth as well. So I wonder, how do you guys feel after seeing it with your own two eyes? I mean, you obviously have experienced it in your history as well, but how does that make you feel? The denial, Like, do you have conversations with people still who will act as though it's not real?
I mean, to be honest, this is something that all Palestinians grow up with. It's just kind of, and honestly, I'll be 100% real with you right now. I sort of accepted it and internalized it to an extent. I was like, it is what it is. We would go to the West Bank, and I remember my wife was pregnant and my mom's in this car, and we would go to a checkpoint and they'd be like, you guys are Palestinians. You have to get down and you have to walk through all of these different areas. Anybody else who's not Palestinian, you can stay in the car and you can pass through. And it was like, hey, that's just the reality. It is what it is. Like, this is what it is. If I'm going to go to this part of Palestine, I may be subjected to checkpoints. These people are separated from us. People in Gaza never made it to the West Bank. People in the West Bank never made it to Gaza. Nobody's making it into Jerusalem. And we kind of internalized this. So, I mean, for me, it's something I think about. It's like, I just sort of accepted this reality. I don't know what you think about it.
Yeah, what do you think about it?
As
a former Zoroastrian.
not former, just an agnostic Zoroastrian.
As an agnostic Zoroastrian. And,
but yeah, actually, I guess that angle is kind of interesting. Zoroastrianism and Judaism have a quite close history, actually. The Jews were enslaved, way long time ago. The Jews were enslaved in Babylon, and then Cyrus the Great was the emperor of a Persian empire, which was a Zoroastrian empire. He invaded Babylon, took the city, actually freed the Jews, and repatriated them to Jerusalem, and built the second temple from the Persian treasury to replace the one that I guess the Romans had destroyed. And there's actually this thing that's, I think, maybe misleading, but still, it's called the First Declaration of Human Rights. Was a tablet that was issued by Cyrus, declaring that the Jews have the right to worship, and just some basic rights. And there's a copy of that that's sitting outside the UN Security Council. And it's like the plaque. I can't remember the exact words on it, but it says this is one of the first recognitions of universal rights, and that all people have the same rights, regardless of who they are, regardless of where they are. That seeing that so shockingly transmogrified into this psychotic, apartheid is not even, it's not the wrong term, because it's not harsh enough. Like the African National Congress, the people that fought apartheid, they'll still say it today, they're adamant. They're like, no, the Poors never did anything like this to us. This is crazy. It's really a shocking thing to see in person. I remember the first time I was in, I lived in Israel from 2004 to 2005. I was in Haifa working with a Palestinian Jewish cooperative there. And I would tour around in the West Bank, and I was going, I think, from Nablus to Jenin in a shared taxi with 3 other guys. I think I told you the story before. And we get to a checkpoint, the checkpoint outside of Jenin, and the Israeli soldier, he's this big kind of chubby dude with a mustache, like a career guy, not a young reservist. He orders all of us out of the car. So okay, we get out of the car, and this is all in like Hebrew and Arabic, but he says, I'm going to check your ID, and then you take one step over and stand here. It's like literally, there's only 4 of us. It's not hard to keep track, but whatever. So he looks at my passport and he's like, whatever, this guy's an American. And then he looks at the other 3. And then the last guy, who's probably like 19 or 20, he's like, he checks his ID and he says, move over 1 step. And the guy's like, I don't want to move over 1 step. You checked my ID. What's the problem? He's like, move over 1 step. And no, I don't want to move over 1 step. And so they like start shoving each other. I'm like, shit, this is getting like bad. So I got between them and I looked at the Palestinian. I was like, halas, like just, stop. It's okay. And then I was turning around to say, like, it's okay to the Israeli guy. In Hebrew, it's like beseda. He just clocks me. And I had glasses at the time. They flew off. I went down to one knee, and I kind of just, I was scared. I didn't know what to do. So I just put my hand up like this. And then I think he realized that he hit the American. So he was like, oh crap, I better stop. So he just threw all of our IDs on the floor and walked away. And when we got back in the car, none of them even thought this was weird. It wasn't even like, and I was about there. I was 21 or 22 at the time. Like none of them thought anything of this. And I was like, holy, like this is just, it's inescapable when you're there,
Yeah.
And that was more than 20 years ago.
By the way, Big Mo just had a baby, named him Faye. He got his wife out of Gaza.
Yeah.
But there's you talk about apartheid. There's like a real non-zero chance that his son may never be able to visit Gaza ever, even though his mom and his dad are from Gaza. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality of it. We can say, apartheid and ethnic cleansing, but this is how it plays out.
Yeah. No, it's unbelievable that it's something that we learn about in history books about, like, my whole life I've been taught, like, this is a heinous crime. This can never be repeated, never again. And then it's being repeated in broad daylight in front of our eyes. It's the first ever live stream genocide. And so now we understand why or how German society turned a blind eye to the chimney smoke and the ashes that covered these cities when people talked about it, where there's no plausible deniability in this circumstance. And yet, people see it, and some people even demand more of it.
And those institutions back then were quiet about this. Many of the same institutions now, like the professional societies and the different governments and even some of the religious sort of groups, they all were quiet when it happened then. And to no one's surprise, they're quiet when it's happening in Gaza to Palestinians.
Yeah, absolutely. So your fellow volunteer surgeon, we just talked about him, Dr. Adam Hamawi, U.S. Army combat veteran who famously saved Tammy Duckworth. Duckworth's life in Iraq before volunteering alongside medical teams in Gaza, recently won the Democratic congressional primary.
That's right.
In New Jersey's 12th district on an explicit platform of healthcare, not bombs. As physicians who have spent years attempting to lobby an obstinate Congress from the outside, what does it mean for your movement to see a frontline medical colleague break through the party establishment to take a seat inside the halls of power? Does that give you a little bit of confidence?
It gives me hope.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest,
and you're also Palestinian, so it's like doubly. I'm interested to hear what you think about all the anti-Zionists running for office and winning.
I never thought in my life that we would be in this sort of position to see this sort of platforms and policies, even the discourse, people talking about AIPAC being dirty money. I mean, I think there's a chance. I don't know. I would love to hear actually what you think. I think there's a chance that the Democratic nominee in 2028 may be running on a "I'm not taking AIPAC money" platform.
Oh, that's a guarantee. I said that on CNN, and everybody got mad at me, and I was like. To
me, that's like it literally. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that. I never thought that was possible. And,
like when you were here, when you sat in this room, did you think that a year after that conversation, we would have a frontline medical worker that came out of Gaza and ran for office and won, or the number of different like openly anti-Zionist politicians that have actually won their won seats of power in the Democratic Party? I mean, there's a lot of backlash. I'm sure you guys have seen.
Yeah,
I have become somewhat of a controversial figure, unfortunately, but it is what it is. But there is unimaginable progress being made here. I mean, look, Angie Nixon just won.
Yes.
The Florida primary, and that's another statewide race. Just like, and she has a very similar platform to Abdul El-Sayed, who just won in Michigan. And I never in my life would have ever thought that someone like that would win a primary, and then go on Morning Joe the next day, and they say, are you going to forego weapons? Are you in favor of denying weapons, armed transfers to the state of Israel? And she goes, yeah, I am.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, that's insane. I mean, it's such a normal position when you understand the severity of the crisis, when you're like, this is a genocide. Of course we have to do an arms embargo. We should do accountability, right?
Yeah.
And yet it's still unbelievable in comparison to even a year ago, 2 years ago, or certainly 10 years ago.
It's also a natural position if you're a politician and you actually think that what people believe matters. Like if you even leaving it, like, suppose you have no morals whatsoever. If you want to get elected and you're paying any attention to the United States, not just like, in other words, if you think that people matter, not the money, that actually that's the money. Not only that people are winning, like Nixon in Florida, is that right?
Yeah, Florida.
Yeah, I think I saw, if I'm remembering these numbers correctly, I think she spent just shy of $1 million, and I think her opponent spent almost $17 million.
He fundraised $17 million. I think he spent like $5 million.
Even total, still, like a 5-to-1 spending ratio used to guarantee just total victory. Obliteration. Abdul El-Sayed
13 or 12-to-1.
Is that what it was? These are wild numbers, So that just shows. And on top of that, I was just listening to an interview with those the two guys that wrote the book Israel's Lobby recently. And they were pointing out that, like, and they're correct, most of the Israel lobby ads and stuff like that don't even mention Israel anymore.
Yeah.
It used
Oh,
to
yeah.
it used to be that they would just be like, this guy doesn't support Israel. And I was like, oh my God, how can they not support Israel? And, you know, and that now it's like, oh, we better not mention that he doesn't support Israel because that would be doing work for him. Like that would be supporting his candidacy.
I think that
crazy.
the crazy stat, because I think I remember seeing this in the New York Times as well. Since 2022, there has not been a single AIPAC or AIPAC subsidiary ad that has mentioned Israel at all.
Wow.
I can believe it.
Yeah.
Since 2022, it's always like, oh, this is a bad Democrat. If you're in the primary, they say like that's what they did with Wesley Bell, Cory Bush.
Yeah.
The first time around when it was like the historic primary expenditure, there was not a single mention of Cory Bush's position on Israel.
Yeah.
And then after that victory comes for the AIPAC candidate, then they'll gloat.
Right.
Then they'll be like, oh yeah, being pro-Israel is good politics and good policy.
Yep.
Yeah.
But this is what bothers me though, and you're dealing with this. This is why I don't understand. Look, Fox News is watching you like a hawk. I get it. You know,
you might appear tonight.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. But what bothers me though is the Democratic Party, the establishment. They're still making the same mistakes that they made in 2024, and this idea that they can just somehow bully this like populist progressive movement. I mean, are they going to make the same mistake in 2028 where they're going to shove a candidate down our throat who has bad politics and policy in general, but also on Palestine? I mean, that's, this could be a disaster if we're talking about a Vance or a Rubio presidency because the Democratic establishment can't read the room.
No, I'm not worried about that.
Okay, why?
Because look, I look at, again, last time Feroz was here, I look at where I was mentally and where I thought about like American politics was heading.
Yeah.
And where we are now. That happened in less than 2 years. I remember getting kicked out of the DNC for calling out after being invited as a creator for Kamala Harris. I got kicked out of the DNC while a New York Times reporter was sitting next to me in front of 70,000 live viewers. I lost my credentials because I criticized the Democratic National Committee and the convention for not having a Palestinian speaker. And the final straw was when I compared them to Israel because they were lying. They were lying about how like Ruba, who is part of or was at the time part of the uncommitted movement, like had not sent in their speech ahead of time. And I was like, oh, just like Israel, they're lying to the media. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. They were like, you got to get out of here. And I remember feeling so discouraged about like when I heard Kamala Harris say we're going to have the most muscular military, the most lethal military, all this stuff.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That was only 2 years ago. Now everyone can't stop talking about DSA and all these like anti-Zionists winning these crazy victories all around the country. And therefore, I mean, 2 years from here on out, especially when some of these guys, I mean, look at Zoran, right? Like he has delivered on his agenda, on his promises. He's done a tremendous amount of work in terms of like normalizing some of the sentiment as well, being brave at times when it's necessary to say, I'm not going to Israel in that New York primary debate. That was a huge moment. That was a real turning point, right? In messaging in mainstream news. All of that is building on this movement. All of that is building on this movement that centers the interest of the working class. So yes, I do think that 2028, judging by our trajectory, by the exponential growth of this movement, by all of these compounding victories, 2028 is going to have a much more positive outlook, I think.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm ready. You got me. You
got me psyched up now.
Yeah.
Ready to do some door knocking.
I don't foresee the 2028 Democratic primary victor being pro-Israel in any way, shape, or form. It's going to be treated like abortion. Like, would you expect the 2028 Democratic primary winner to be restrictive in abortion in any way, shape, or form? No, right?
No chance, yeah.
And I think Israel will be viewed in the same exact partisan manner. There are obviously a lot of, growing pains in the process. These guys cannot contend with this reality shifting. They're so comfortable. They're so used to posture arrogantly and make maximalist demands and have a lot of those demands get satiated and fulfilled. so that's why there's a lot of backlash right now, and they're like, oh, we'll just purchase TikTok and then we'll make TikTok pro-Israel. Okay, that didn't work, but like, we'll go after prominent critics of Israel. We'll just like tar and feather them at first as anti-Semites. Okay, that doesn't work. Then we move down. We move down the line. Now they're just calling me every name in the book, and unfortunately, a lot of Democrats are also leaning into it as well. But
what was the? I'm sorry to ask you this, but what was the context of? They had asked Bernie about Abdul.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, what's the deal with that though? I just don't understand it. Honestly, I was very disappointed. Like,
wait, was Bernie saying? Oh, that was he wasn't even responding to Abdul campaigning with me. He was responding to the America Deserve 9/11 comment.
Oh, thank God.
And then they clipped it. No, because he then moves on to defend me. He's like, oh, he's on the radio for thousands of hours. Like, he turns around, he's like, Abby, I'm sure you've said something stupid in your hundreds of hours on CNN. Nice. But the media, of course, clipped it to be like, oh, Bernie condemned. No, Bernie and I we're still boys.
Good. Okay, good.
Right. That's Unc. That's Unc. Yeah. We might not always agree. We might not always agree.
No, that's sure.
On everything, but that's still Unc.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not even just popular opinion. Like, actually this movie, American Doctor, it actually got picked what's it called? The New York Times named it a Critics' Choice. Yep. That's like inconceivable, even just a year or two ago, totally inconceivable. Actually, we opened the movie in Toronto as well. The Globe and Mail, which is like 100 times worse than even like the Wall Street Journal when it comes to this, even they actually gave it a critics pick. And so like, I think a lot of or like Mark and I were on Amanpour's show this morning, that's like, and he and I were on Amanpour's show in probably like 24? April of 2024, maybe
she's
May.
She's a little bit woke though. She's like a little bit more woke than the rest of.
Yeah, no, she is, but smart, like, and she's an intelligent woman and she's a fair interviewer, so fine. But like when we were on there, 2 years ago, it wasn't her interviewing, it was somebody substituting for her, but every single thing we said, I saw kids shot in the head. Oh, CNN cannot independently verify this. I saw people starving. CNN cannot independently verify this. That was just the constant thing. And then PBS like took it down from their website. Like, nobody wanted to touch this. Now Amanpour herself just tweeted out part of the conversation that we just had, So like that things have definitely changed. Not enough yet, but we got to keep pushing, and we got to hold our, we can't make the same mistake that we did with Obama, which is like elect him and then go home. Yeah. It's got to be, people have to keep their, hold politicians accountable. But if we do that, there's only up to go,
So going back to the Capitol Hill side of this conversation, because you guys obviously pushed a lot when you came back, that's also part of the documentary as well. The documentary follows your transition from operating rooms to, under artillery fire to the halls of Congress and hallways of Capitol Hill. What was the psychological cognitive dissonance of leaving an active mass casualty zone, boarding a commercial flight, and then walking into congressional offices where staff members treated the destruction of hospitals as, routine legislative bargaining, and also saw you guys as somewhat of a nuisance, really?
Yeah. And they were dismissive, and sometimes they were combative, depending on which office you were visiting. I mean, you're talking to over 200 Americans that have gone and volunteered in Gaza, and we all have the consistent testimonies of what we saw, the destruction, the targeting of children, just this absolute mayhem, and it's through time and space. And you've got maybe like a 21-year-old in front of you for a certain office just telling you like, well, the senator or the congressperson here is they're a steadfast ally of Israel, and that's not going to change. I just told you all of these kids are getting slaughtered in this massive amount of numbers, and that's the only thing that they could say. It was brutal. I mean, I think we would go there and we would just keep trying, and it demoralized us. And I think that's why Adam ran. He's like, well, these people are not going to change. They're not going to listen to what's happening here. We've got to replace them. Yeah. And so I'm glad that he did that.
Yeah, and I'm glad that young people are running. Like I'm 44. Like I feel like I'm too old to be in Congress now. Like it's like people younger than me. I mean, Adam's a little older than me, but like people younger than me are running, and they're just like, no, we don't accept this. There is no. It's not a law of the universe that Americans have to subsidize the mass murder of children. That is not. It's not a law of like gravity or that's not a thing. There is no that's not keeping anyone safe. There's no reason we have to do that. Yet we are. Throw these people out of office, or there was this was it the New Yorker? It was the New Yorker. This like Anthony Blinken and Brett McGurk and Lloyd Austin and Jake Sullivan and all these. I forget Kamala Harris is the security advisor guy. All these people saying, we were Amos Hochstein, these people, we regret not doing more
trying to rewrite history.
curb Israel's excessive response to the October 7th. This side. No, these people should not be brought back into power. Other people need to step up
100%.
and we need to put them in a position to do so.
Yeah. And they kept defending it well into the Trump administration. Brett McGurk has a CNN contributor slot.
Yeah.
And I saw him with my own two eyes, with my own two ears, speak endlessly about how positive it was that Trump was involved in Gaza in a similar manner to the Democratic Party, and how this was like following the trajectory of Biden. He even talked about the Iran war in a similar manner initially.
So did Hochstein. Hochstein said, if Biden was reelected, we actually thought we were going to have to attack Iran too.
Yeah, we were talking about it. He said,
the hell out of here. Like that. You're crazy. That means you're psychotic. Like the fact that it really, I mean, that's maybe people don't get how crazy these things are, but like that means you're nuts.
Yeah.
Go away.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm glad that there are so many different things like documentaries coming out or different pieces of art coming out, or the fact that you're streaming and stuff. It's like, we've got this documented for the historical record. Jake Sullivan can give any speech that he wants at Harvard trying to distance himself. But at the end of the day, I met with Jake Sullivan, and he was defending these allegations about what these hospitals were used for to a person that's been in every hospital in Gaza.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because, like, I mean, I'm sure you guys remember at the time you had USAID reports coming out that was showcasing the atrocities, the severity of the crisis, and the famine-like conditions that were taking place, and that's an automatic that's so like unconditionally a war crime that numerous people who were very positive about Israel, including the leader of Human Rights Watch, once they saw famine, they were like, "It's over. This is a genocide. This is definitely a genocide, right?" And yet, those reports were cast aside, by Anthony Blinken,
or even altered.
Yeah.
That's why Stacey Gilbert resigned. That's like that. Anil, what's her last name? Rodriguez, I think. That's why she resigned. Like there were lots of people in the technical departments at the state and USAID, at least at state, who resigned and said, no, like that's not what our report said. Like we clearly said, yes, Israel is blocking American funded aid to Gaza. Yes, it is illegal to keep arming these people. Yeah. And then you had you mentioned like the testimony of 99 American. When do 99 American healthcare workers, including the two of us, and Mark, and Adam and plenty of others, when do 99 American healthcare workers write the President of the United States a letter saying we saw atrocities committed by an American ally with American weapons and get literally no response, like nothing, no response at all? And that's wild.
And I think people should know that as doctors, the different specialties that we have, we all hate each other. We think we're all, so the fact that we can come and agree on certain things, but that is miraculous, honestly. And the fact that it was ignored is nuts. One thing I'll say is we can all agree that Huckabee is a racist lunatic. He hates the idea of Muslims or Palestinians, and he doesn't even like Palestinian Christians. But Biden's ambassador to Israel, Jack Lew, is also a horrifying figure. That famine early warning system report, this guy got the report. It says there are famine conditions in the north of Gaza, and he's trying to argue that the population calculations are wrong. Are you...
The famine early warning system is part of USAID, and it was,
Are you out of your mind that you are saying that, there's a chance that people are hungry and dying from hunger? I'm going to argue the numbers instead of saying, let's get some food in. Who cares if it's not at the level of famine, if you want to argue that? But get some food into these people. It's clear that they're starving to death.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mike Huckabee, I got to show you guys this. So this is the new line of defense. It's somewhat of a testament to the fact that this like unconditional support and loyalty concept is kind of falling apart. That now the question is, do you suffer from Israel derangement syndrome?
Oh man.
And Mike Huckabee says, this is hilarious and very well done. Let's take a look at the video really quickly. I'm not going to like bother you with the entire thing because it's gross and disgusting.
All right, everyone, boy or girl?
Israel is committing genocide right now, and you people are cutting a cake?
Do you or someone you love suffer
AI
from
video, of
Israel
course.
derangement syndrome?
My wife says I never listen to her. At least I think that's what she said.
We're giving Israel almost $4 billion of our tax money every year. Why are you silent on this? Are you funded by them too?
Israel derangement syndrome does.
So what's funny about it is like they're trying to
Ridiculous.
present it as like, oh, why do you care about this thing
Yeah.
so much? And it's so funny. From my perspective, at least, which I replied to Mike Huckabee with, this is especially funny coming from you, big dog. You literally said Israel has a right to implement the Greater Israel Project.
Yeah.
If there's a person, if there's anyone that's like obsessed with Israel,
Yeah.
it's evangelical Zionists.
Oh, man.
People like Mike Huckabee, who I think would literally sacrifice their firstborn or even like an entire American state in the American mainland just so Israel gets to behave in a belligerent manner in the region. So very funny that now their attitude is
And
like,
he's-
why do you care so much about this? It's only $4 billion a year.
Yeah, it's facts, which by the way, that's all facts, and they're somehow saying there's some derangement there.
Yeah.
Huckabee, by the way, is a rogue ambassador. I hope people understand this. He refuses to call it the West Bank
Yeah.
because of this like insane.
Yeah,
he's
he
a
says
zealot.
Judea, he says Judea and Samaria.
He never says the West Bank, which of course is not U.S. foreign policy, at least for the last 5 decades. And he's like, I mean, that next thing there, the Times of Israel that you have where he's meeting with the ex-spy.
Yeah.
I mean, are you telling me this was approved by our State Department?
Yeah.
Did Rubio know about this and said, hey, it's all good, meet with this guy who was, spying on us? So this
Yeah.
guy's totally rogue. And he's just, I mean, yeah. He's
Yeah, and
silly.
meeting
Yeah.
sanctioned Israeli ministers,
Right.
calling sanctions outrageous hypocrisy. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
We are run by lunatics.
Yeah.
The idea that Mike Huckabee, who is, as far as I understand, he's a Christian pastor or some
Yes.
kind, right?
Yeah.
The
He's
idea
evangelical,
that this man does not understand that when you starve children or when you pay someone else to shoot children, or that's something that you should be worried about, and can dismiss it as Israel derangement syndrome and pretend that everyone's yelling at stand-up comics
Right.
who make jokes about their wives,
Yeah.
like in the middle. This
Yeah.
is absurd. Like it's kind of hard to. I mean, I know we're laughing about it because it is pretty funny, but it's kind of hard to appreciate how psychotic that is. I mean, that's I don't know. I feel like that's like somebody being like, oh, you're obsessed with Germany because they're why are stand-up comics standing up and yelling about the Holocaust in 1940s? Well, there's a reason. I mean, there is a good reason for that, actually.
Yeah.
Like if people were doing that in the 1940s, now we would praise them for it.
Yeah.
you
One of
know?
the worst takes I ever heard, I don't know why he reminded me of this, is Patrick Bet David was talking about
That's my
rebranding.
goat.
That's your guy, huh?
Oh God.
He's so funny.
Oh, I
But
can't believe you brought that up.
Do you remember the take he said?
no.
He goes, Israel has a PR problem. He goes, and I have an idea. Let's do the roast of Benjamin Netanyahu. It's like, wow, that is as bad as it gets, man.
Dude, it's because these guys are fucking stupid. Okay,
Yes.
it's because they're
yeah.
so stupid. I mean, I love Patrick. He won't have me on a show for some reason. He's had Nick Fuentes on, and I'm
That's
a bridge
crazy.
too far. These
That's
guys
crazy.
literally think I'm like a more dangerous radical than fucking Nick Fuentes, who they defend all the time. That shows you how out of touch they are too.
Yeah,
Like,
oh my
this is just a crisis of PR.
Yeah.
As though you can just like solve it by roasting Benjamin Netanyahu. It's insane. It's like they've murdered children and
Yeah.
they continue to murder children right now during the so-called ceasefire.
Yeah.
There's one element that I really wanted to talk to you guys about, because like the documentary is covering 3 different experiences that unify under this this shared experience. Was there a hierarchy in credibility when you guys came back as well? Because like, look, Mark is Jewish. You're not Palestinian. You're not Jewish, and you're Palestinian. So like, did you feel as though even in the media reception of it all, there was a difference in your perspectives, like, or the coverage itself?
I mean, for sure. And that's something that you just have to understand is the reality here. I am Palestinian, but I also feel like I know what I'm talking about when it comes to Palestine, the history, the healthcare situation. I'm a board member for a Palestinian medical organization that works in Palestine. And this is what I do. I've been doing this for a very long time. I know every inch of Palestine. I know all of the hospitals, Gaza, West Bank, Jerusalem. And I've been working there for the last 16 years. But I have to acknowledge, though, that when an American, an everyday American, maybe somebody from the Midwest, maybe somebody on the West Coast, when they see me talking about it, there is this sort of, well, he must have an agenda. He is biased. And that's part of the dehumanization. It's why these people don't acknowledge the children being slaughtered, but it's also why you can sort of just say it's these people over there, these lesser than people, these folks, these Palestinians, they're different. Like you mentioned, I heard you mention Jake Tapper, but he's somebody I always think about. Is like he has that sort of dehumanizing, racist understanding, right? So no matter what I say, I can be the smartest person in the room. He's not going to accept it from me.
I mean,
and so I think that's why I really appreciate guys like Feroz and Mark, why they do what they do, understanding that the backlash is there because they're not going to be spared. You're not going to be spared from this. But the fact that you're willing to speak up and say these things, I mean, that to me, I mean, I say that's courageous to do it, honestly.
Yeah, no, for the most part, for most of my career, I've been doing this for 13 years. And before people were like hyper focused on, every little thing that I've ever said, I was still an avowed anti-Zionist, right? But most people had not like fully comprehended the issue at all. It didn't become such a salient problem for them. And most of the time they would cover me as like a white guy who's, kind of bro-y, right? I was a white cisgender heterosexual guy who's like a little bit bro-y. Post October 7, I'm Muslim. I'm the most Muslim guy that is ever Muslimed in the country. Yeah. Like, nice. It's just like, I'm still the same guy. I'm still white as hell. Like if my name was Hank, like I feel like the 90% of the media coverage would change because it would be much more difficult for them to present me as this like super radical guy. Right. But yeah, they definitely lean into that. Yeah. They definitely lean into that. But the reason why I wanted to ask, because I wanted to hear Mark's perspective on this as well. Unfortunately, couldn't make it. But one other thing that has happened is they'll just like remove your background. Because like they did this to Brad Lander as well. Brad Lander, who's like been very outspoken about the issue. They treated his victory over Dan Goldman in a very Jewish district in New York as an anti-Semitic act. It was a Jewish district.
Where both candidates are Jewish.
Both candidates are Jewish, but one candidate is pro-Israel, the other candidate is very critical of Israel. And all of a sudden they were making it seem like Brad Lander was this like random Christian guy, I guess, like, who was anti-Semitically unseating Dan Goldman.
And that's the thing is it's not even, it is obviously there's a lot of dehumanization of Palestinians. Actually, I'll tell you, we left we go to these Q&As after the screening, like after the showing of the movie all the time. And I remember we were walking out of one, and we usually hang around for like, a long time and talk to people and like, just try to answer their questions. And cause people want, anyway, while we were walking out, I heard this lady, and she was chastising herself for this, to be fair, but I heard this lady say, because Thayer's family features very prominently, and he's got these two little girls who are super cute. On the way out, she literally says, I can't believe this, but I never thought of Palestinians as having families. It's like this is like an educated person in a major city.
Jesus Christ,
but it's like where first even just biologically, like where do you think these humans came from? Like it's but like, that's pretty wild. And this is the person who volunteered to come see the movie American Doctor at a film festival, not even in the main theater.
Well, I guess that's the best person to watch it technically.
Yes, no, 100%, 100%. But she was, and she was chiding herself for that. Like that's why this kind of this medium of film and this movie can help people see that kind of thing. But
this is the second time I heard you say that, and honestly, I don't know how else to say this, but it hurts my feelings every time he says that.
I can imagine,
because I think about all of the kids, like even you talk about Hind Rajab, you talk about all those kids, and you're like, if more people had seen it, had that realization earlier, maybe that some of them would still be alive.
Yeah, because we wouldn't tolerate this. Like nobody is okay. People are okay with killing vermin, not with killing children. Right. That's why that has to be hidden from them what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's also precisely the reason why the dehumanization has to set in. And I think the media is very culpable.
Oh, very much. Yeah,
like they've played such a huge role in that.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is that, like you just said, it even extends to the idea that Jewish people who don't want this done in their name, or even they can be dismissed as, you know, their opinion also doesn't matter for some reason. Like, you know, now there's this new phenomenon of, I think we saw, like, maybe it was Chris Cuomo or Andrew, it must have been Chris Cuomo talking to Adam
Friedland.
That guy. And he was telling me he's a bad, I can't remember the exact words.
He's a bad Jew.
Basically told him he's a bad Jew.
Yeah.
And Friedland's like, what? Aren't you an Italian guy? Like, what is this? Is ridiculous. Like, like, and even I mean, is his name Van Jones? Is that he's done that. Like this new phenomenon of non-Jews telling other Jews that they're bad Jews because they're not Jewing right is just crazy.
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
it's outrageous. So, like, you know, anybody that, you know, the American media system can accomplish a lot of really crazy stuff.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable that, like, your level of Judaism is now determined by how pro-Israel you are.
Yeah,
because they did this with Abdul al-Sayed. I saw it happen with my own two eyes, where they were like, "You're attacking Haley Stevens, and it's very anti-Semitic." Haley Stevens is not Jewish.
Yeah.
She's just funded by AIPAC.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the highest level of Judaism in America, according to our you know, very normal media apparatus, is like wait, I'm going to show you this.
Israel comes to me in my dreams.
I have it. I
You have
have
that on speed dial. That's nice.
So if Israel comes to you in your dreams, it doesn't matter if you're Christian. You're now Jewish. You're honorary Jewish.
I can't believe,
or at least you can be subjected to anti-Semitism somehow, because it's got nothing to do with Jews. You know what I mean?
How does she say something like that and nobody says, "What are you talking about? What does that mean?"
What does that mean?
How?
Yeah.
You know, I don't. But yeah.
I mean, people say weird things at rallies. I get it, but, like, that is odd.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if I was like, yeah, you know, Hasan, Palestine comes to me in my dreams. You would rightly say, can you explain that dream? Because that sounds strange.
Well, I always like to say Estonia comes to me in my dreams, and because it's like so silly. Like, just imagine being like, no, Lithuania. I fucking love Lithuania. Do you think Lithuania has a right to exist?
Yeah.
Why don't you, like, if you don't give Lithuania $10 billion right now a year, that means you want every Lithuanian in America to die. That was a conversation that took place earlier on Morning Joe with Angie Nixon, or not Morning Joe. This was CBS, which is, of course, now owned by the
Barry
Ellisons,
Weiss,
and it's Barry Weiss is the news editor.
Great journalist.
And what's crazy is they were asking Angie Nixon, and the host turns around to Angie Nixon and says, "So you want to deny weapons transfers to Israel at a time when there's an unprecedented crisis in anti-Semitism here in the United States of America?" And I was like, how do you connect those two things?
Yeah, that's
What
wild.
the fuck does that have to do with American Jews at all?
That's crazy.
Like, it's such an insane argument. It's so bizarre, but, like, I feel like at this point they're just like they're speed running the common narratives, like, because it's just they have nothing else to lean into, so they just go, well, you know, this is really messed up. Like, anti-Semitism is going to skyrocket if we don't give $10 billion to Israel a year.
Yeah. You know, that strategy even extends past this, even with the ceasefire now, or the so-called ceasefire. They're like, the only way that we can make sure that the borders are open and people can get medical treatment and food can enter is if this political group disarms.
Yeah.
How are you pairing disarmament in a political process to giving people food and water and electricity?
Children.
Yeah. How have we accepted that? Oh, this is a normal conversation. Yes. Let's use food as leverage in order to get this political group to be able to disarm. It's nuts to me. And it's that same strategy.
And of course, as is the case, the government has said, "Oh, we don't care that they're disarming." So that was the other thing. Because Hamas has already said that they're fine with a technocratic committee overseeing control over Gaza, and now on top of that, they're even leaning into the disarmament initiative. Which, by the way, how do you even?
It's completely meaningless to disarm
not like they
Hamas.
they don't have. Like, I mean, you guys were there. They don't have, like, I don't know, like S-300s or anything.
They do not
like,
have advanced weaponry.
They have conventional small arms and, like, bathtub IEDs that they've made oftentimes from unexploded ordnance from Israel. So, like, I don't even know how you would disarm them in any meaningful way, shape, or form. But they said yes to it. And Israel is, of course, still advancing into Gaza, lo and behold, in a manner not dissimilar to what they've done in the West Bank. There's no Hamas in the West Bank, and yet the occupation still remains.
Nobody's talking about also them trying to build these alternative communities for Palestinians. They're trying to create a bunch of Bantustans in Gaza.
Yeah.
And they're trying to basically say, hey, if you're a good Palestinian, you can come over here, you'll have a school, you'll have food, and you'll have shelter. If you're a bad Palestinian, you have any connections, we're going to basically either ethnically cleanse you or kill you. And the idea is there can be no contiguous Gaza, there can be no state of Palestine. That's happening. That's on the ground. It's happening right now.
It's the American Indian model of dealing with this thing.
Yeah,
it
that's
really
like
is.
54. It was initially 52%. Now it's breached past that line. Of
Yeah.
course, it's
Yes.
now at I think 57% of the Gaza Strip.
There are some estimates that say it's greater than 60%.
Yeah.
And you know why that's the case? We don't know for sure is, we have colleagues that have just entered into Gaza. They can't even before when the ceasefire happened, there were cinder blocks.
Yeah.
And they would be like, okay, this is the yellow line. Now they keep inching closer. And the only way they know is when they engage
When
and
they
they fire
shoot.
on people.
Yeah.
Yep.
When they shoot children, that they claim is like passing the yellow line that keeps expanding.
That's the other thing about this military that I hope people can understand is they had a policy of just engage with anything that breathes or moves. Even Israeli hostages that escaped.
Yeah.
They fired on them and killed
Naked,
them.
waving white flags and yelling in Hebrew.
They fired on them, and that's
Three of them killed,
that's
yeah.
how what happened to Hind happened. That's how those ambulance drivers were killed in Rafah. That's how all of these people have lost their lives when they were trying to cross the street and flee because they were told to evacuate by the Israeli military. And it's just like they told their soldiers just fire.
Yeah.
Let it rain.
If anybody wants to read about this, Breaking the Silence, it's an Israeli reservist group that just takes testimony from them, but also Haaretz, which is it's one of Israel's major newspapers. They've both published extensively Israeli soldiers' own testimonies, just saying, yes, we were ordered to shell people waiting for a food truck, or not like an LA food truck, like a truck delivering food. We were told to just shoot anything that moves. We were told to just obliterate every building, no matter what was going on there. Like that's just like it's all out there and open. Like none of it's a secret.
Yeah. And is it not
It's amazing that
humiliating? Do you think it's not humiliating for the Trump administration to say, hey, we made a major breakthrough on Truth Social? He's like, we're advancing this agreement. And then Netanyahu holds a press conference and says, nah, we're not agreeing to any of the 15-point plan. Like, there's no response to that? We haven't even heard a response.
Yeah, I mean, he's super cucked to Israel. There's no other way to put it. Like, I mean, he was this way. I've said over and over again that like the conditions for October 7 were set by the Abraham Accords. Like what came before in the Trump administration, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, formalizing the annexation of Golan Heights, things that Trump actually openly admitted Miriam Adelson was not even asking for.
Yeah.
Like he said he threw Golan Heights in there as a sweetener for them. They didn't even ask for it.
Really? I didn't know that.
So all of that obviously set the stage for Palestinian militancy to recognize their desperation and that there was no other way out of this.
No,
Well,
go ahead.
No.
After the Abraham Accords, I think most Palestinians were like, oh, it's a wrap.
Yeah, it's over.
You're getting Arab countries in the region to basically say, all right, we're going to sidestep this Palestine problem.
Yeah.
And we're going to kind of move forward. And, Jared Kushner, who was supposed to bring the peace to the Middle East, he's a great deal maker. You're 100% right. The Abraham Accords was the beginning of this disaster that we're in right now. Across the Middle East.
Yeah. And not just that, but like the Gaza has been under siege since 2005. It's been getting steadily worse ever since. Gaza has been, the whole Palestinian economy has been getting worse since the Oslo Accords, not better. The Oslo Accords from 91, 92, has been getting worse, not better. Unemployment has been going up. Settlements have been getting bigger. Palestinian communities have been squeezed more and more and more. There's a misunderstanding that things were getting better, and then this second Intifada thing happened in 2000. Oh well,
yeah.
That's completely not true. That's just absolutely untrue. And then on top of that, this has been reported. Hamas actually repeatedly reached out to the Biden administration and said, "Look, you cannot just ignore this problem. This is I don't know what words they use, but this is this Gaza is a concentration camp that's going to explode." And the Biden administration just ignored them.
Yeah.
Well, okay. You cage people and treat them like animals. Eventually, some of them will act like it.
I interviewed Dr. Ofer Kasif right after October 7. He's a minister of the Knesset. He's an anti-Zionist Jew, the only anti-Zionist Jew in the Israeli Knesset, and one of the few in Israel in general.
Yeah.
And he he told me he sent a lot of letters to American politicians, some of which I admire even, I won't say who, about the conditions in the West Bank and Itamar Ben-Gvir and like all of the initiatives that they were engaging in the West Bank that was inevitably going to bear out a very violent response. So like people act as though this was not, this was an unpredictable, cataclysmic event. And yet it was so predictable that the heads of Shin Bet had warned the Israeli government at the time. And they called them woke.
Yeah.
They said you're woke for saying like our militancy and our violence in the West Bank is going to inevitably bear out like a violent retaliation from Hamas in Gaza.
And they've been saying that since like 2003, just to be clear. Like the 4 former heads of the Shin Bet were interviewed, I think on Yediot Ahronot, I can't remember, some Israeli thing. And they were very, the way I remember the one line was, we're acting disgracefully in the territories. There's no other word for it, Meron Ben-Venisti, who's the former deputy mayor of Jerusalem. He's I think he's passed away since then, but he was the founder of the West Bank Data Project. He wrote in probably 2002 or 3 or 4, somewhere around there, that the slow transfer of Palestinians out of Jerusalem, concentrating them in the West Bank and starving Gaza, was creating a community that is hostile and nurturing a desire for revenge.
Yeah.
More than 20 years before October 7th. And yet he was right.
Yeah, and 2023 was the deadliest year since the second Intifada before October 7th. Shireen Abu Akleh was gunned down by an Israeli soldier, a sniper, shot her in the head in Jenin camp. That was months before October 7th. And they were, and then
Shireen Abu Akleh was in 2021.
2021. And then also, don't forget that when Shireen Abu Akleh was trying to have her funeral procession, they had the funeral procession.
Yeah, they attacked it.
So was this sort of, what did we think was going to happen as a result of what was happening? But
so speaking of that, actually, I kind of want to ask you guys what you think about this breaking news about Hind Rajab.
Yeah.
So CNN reported on it earlier this morning. The Israeli military has acknowledged firing on a car carrying 5-year-old Hind Rajab in Gaza after earlier denials, as it opens a criminal probe into the January 2024 killing. So what's really interesting about this, and the reason why your mention of Shireen Abu Akleh reminded me of bringing this up in front of you guys, is because the Shireen Abu Akleh assassination also was investigated.
Yeah.
And not a single person was actually prosecuted in the process. Not a single Israeli soldier.
Yeah.
They found that there was no wrongdoing whatsoever. So how does this make you feel when you see things like this? Do you feel like this is like the Israeli government is actually, even if it's to save, to engage in a face-saving operation, do you feel like there will be anything in this criminal probe?
No, I think the Israelis are very tactical. They understand when the pressure is very high on them. They know when they have to release certain statements. They know what they're supposed to say. And so this is classic. If you look at anything that's happened that has reached like global notoriety or really high profile incidents or events, this is what the Israelis will say. This is what they will do. And this is how they calm things down. And you're exactly right about what happened with Shireen. That's exactly what they said. At first they were like, it wasn't us.
Well, first they said it was the Jenin Brigade.
Yes. Yeah.
And then obviously open source intelligence and forensics examiners looked at the area, and there were no Palestinian militancy in that area whatsoever. It was actually the Israeli snipers that were there.
Yep.
And then they had to double back and be like, oh, it was an accident. It wasn't an accident. She was clearly marked as press. She was wearing a press vest. She was wearing the helmet.
And there was no reason to be firing bullets toward her.
Yeah, and they shot her in the neck to kill her. It was bullshit. And she was an American, Palestinian American, and a very important voice.
Yeah, constituent of Cory Booker and
really, I didn't know that.
New Jersey. So go ahead.
No.
That's the other thing is they did the same thing with one of the producers of No Other Land.
Yeah.
Who the Israeli settler killed
on camera.
On camera, exactly. Yeah. And now they're saying, "Oh, we're gonna," because there's a big extremist settler problem. And so this is, I don't know. Maybe I'm being pessimistic, but this is classic. This is how the Israelis play it. They are very strategic with what they're saying and the announcements that they make. And it's really to calm, I think, any pressure from the Americans or the Europeans.
Do you remember the Great March of Return? There was, I think, a 19-year-old volunteer nurse.
Yeah.
Do you remember her name? I can't remember her name. She was wearing a white coat.
Yep.
She's out there.
Hasan, I think.
That sounds right. Yeah. Tiny little woman, obviously a threat to nobody, out there treating people's wounds where, you know, in one of the greatest mass woundings of young people that's ever taken place. And she gets shot dead by a sniper. I don't know if you remember, the New York Times did this elaborate reconstruction. Like, where did the bullet come from? And they eventually, I think that if I remember right, they determined that the bullet likely hit the ground, bounced up, and killed her that way. And so they, you know, I don't remember if they concluded that it was an accident or whatever. I don't remember their exact conclusion. None of that matters.
Yeah.
What matters is that the Israelis, with our support, full support, lined up snipers and for 2 years straight shot dead people who were protesting, asking for their freedom.
Yeah.
That's what matters. And it's exactly the same thing with Hind Rajab. The Israelis might conclude that, yes, you know, soldier so-and-so, you know, Lance Corporal so-and-so fired the weapon from his, his Merkava tank recklessly 300 times, and therefore he will get a demotion. Who cares?
I think
this has nothing to do with this. This is like telling somebody that, oh yeah, this one time one guy murdered an American Indian. Yeah, but the rest of it was fine.
Yeah,
like this is ludicrous.
It's completely ridiculous. What I suspect is what they'll do is I think one of the commanders actually died in Lebanon, so they might like shift the blame over to shift the blame over to the dead guy.
Actually possible,
and then be like, oh, he did it. Oops, and he no wrongdoing. Regardless, you know, we're still honoring him, but you know, it was him. And it's interesting because this is the same time when the Israeli decision not to prosecute the killing of aid workers in Gaza came out. Now,
is this
here's
about the World
thing.
Central Kitchen?
Yeah.
That happened when I was in Gaza.
Yeah, April.
Yeah, what's crazy about this, of course, is World Central Kitchen is run by I forget his name, Jose Andres.
He's a good friend of Biden's.
Yeah, he's a nice guy in general, but let's be real, he was brought into Gaza to do PR for Israel because he was like very antagonistic to you know the Palestinian position from the start. Yeah. And you know, he's friends to the Bidens, he's friends with the Israeli government.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting about that is he was brought in at a time when famine was starting in Gaza, and basically they allowed him to go in there with the World Central Kitchen. And they still triple tapped their convoy that was engaging in deconfliction with the Israeli military, as you're supposed to when you're down there, when you're out there. And now they're saying there was no wrongdoing. And I guess Jose Andres is outraged once again, saying they strongly condemn the Israeli military prosecutor's account of the deaths of our 7 colleagues on April 1st, 2024. It's just...
It's the 3rd or 4th time he's been outraged by this. Yeah,
I know.
What are you going to do about it?
You said that they're very good at like leaning into propaganda.
Yeah.
This is the first time I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay, let me hear it.
I think they're so arrogant so used to unconditional loyalty and support that a big part of the enmity coming from the Western world now actually stems from the fact that they're not good at propaganda because they don't have to be, because for the last like 30 years, they already had an incredibly sophisticated influence peddling operation, an incredibly powerful lobby, and therefore they thought, and they still think, I think, that they don't have to do this. They don't have to do propaganda at all. And that's precisely the reason why most of the envoys of Israel and most of its most prominent supporters in America sound fucking insane when they talk about the issue. When you hear them speak, you're like, what the fuck? I mean, when the meme on Twitter is, you know, you don't ever translate Hebrew Twitter to English because, you know, it's some of the most racist things you've ever heard.
Wild. It's pretty wild.
But it is reality. Yeah. I feel like that you only arrive at that condition if you have just never had to face accountability. and it's supremacist thought as well.
You might the reason you might be right, or you're probably right, I should say, is me and Feroz were in New York last week, and we met with the elected 10 of the Security Council. So these are not the permanent members of the Security Council. And we met with the EU, basically trying to tell them that we think the only way forward is through accountability. You have to be able to hold the Israelis accountable, because we feel that the Americans, after several visits to Capitol Hill, this is what we told them, aren't doing that. And the responses that we got essentially were, well, let's see kind of what happens with the elections, both in Israel and in the United States.
Oh my God. Like as though Gadi Eisenkot is going to change the dynamic at all of Israeli society when they're running attack ads on him for hugging Arabs. They're running attack ads. If you hug an Arab in Israel, they're like, oh, look at him. Now, that's actually a really interesting point that I want to hear from you guys on as Americans, right? I've often said Israel and America are two peas in a pod. I actually did an interview with Haaretz recently, and there was a lot of pushback when I said this. Like, we are sister nations through and through, and we're both countries that are going through a similar transformation. We're both settler colonies. We've never really acknowledged the indigenous genocide here, and its scars still very much remain. And Israel is going through its indigenous genocide right now in broad daylight with our support. And what I've always found so fascinating about that is that Israel has also become much more right-wing and much more socially conservative. I mean, look, the reality is, like, the Nakba aside, even though it's not something to wash away at all, Israel was created by a bunch of, I guess, quote unquote, woke, secular, socialist Jews.
Yeah.
So like they thought that this was going to be a somewhat more progressive project, but it can't be progressive if you're doing ethnic cleansing.
Right.
And if you don't address that, if you don't address that inception, if you don't address the ongoing atrocities, then society slowly but surely will move away from secular values, will move away from progressive values. And I think a lot of Israeli society broadly cannot contend with that reality, and they're seeing this transformation where, you know, people like Itamar Ben-Gvir are becoming much more prominent fixtures of Israeli politics, and then these liberal Zionists will go, how is this happening? Why is there so much homophobia in Israeli society now? And it's like, well, you know, this goes hand in hand with the genocide that you're defending.
Did you see Adam Smith? He's a congressman in Seattle, or from Seattle, I think. He was on, I think it was Breaking Points.
Yeah, with Crystal.
He was talking to Crystal.
Shout out Crystal.
And she said, you know, how can you, I don't remember the exact words, but like, how do you square your progressive stance on, you know, economics and Medicare for all, whatever it might be, with this seemingly illiberal stance towards Israel? And I was honestly genuinely shocked that somebody said this out loud. He just said there is no liberal solution to Israel.
Yeah.
In other words, Israel is, you know, he didn't say it this way, but I'm interpreting it. Israel is an illiberal state, and that's fine with me. You know, that's wild. Like that's completely crazy. And that I actually just had this like kind of getting back to what you were saying before about like their propaganda is bad. I think ethno supremacy just makes people dumb. Like you kind of can't. You know, I've talked to a lot of people who were in the like very much in the anti-apartheid movement. And they said there was kind of a similar thing where, you know, South African Boers would just, they couldn't understand what everyone else doesn't understand. How can you not understand how great we are, how amazing we are?
Yeah.
Don't you understand that these Africans are barely human, and, you know, they're just all crazy. If we don't control them, they'll just, you know, rip the whole place to shreds, or, you know, these like awful things. But it was so self-evident to them. And it just results in this march to the right, you know? And I really feel like, you know, like South Africa, you know, with the democratic transition, that's one way to end up resolving that problem. But the other is what happened north of there, where I worked when I was in med school, Zimbabwe. And in Zim, it was a very, very violent end to this. And once the apartheid system in Zimbabwe, which was almost identical to South Africa, was dismantled, it just dissolved into this horrendous interscene violence.
Yeah.
And now, you know, the Matabele and the Shona regularly attack each other. It's just a total disaster. And that's, you know, we kind of have to decide which route do we, if you're pro-Israel, you should probably think about what you're leading Israel towards. It's, you know, it's probably its ultimate destruction. It's very, very scary. And these people, like, you know, most like younger American Jews see this and they say like, we don't want even though we like, we don't have anything against our Israeli friends, but we're leading them down this crazy path that's going to destroy the Palestinians and Israel. It's not even good for, even if you are pro-Israel, it's not even good for them.
No, absolutely. But it's also, and the reason why I brought up the America comparison is because it's destroying the Western world.
Yeah.
It's destroying the concept of Western liberal democracy altogether, because I think it's making people recognize that there's this insane illiberal force out there that we have to demonstrate uncompromising loyalty to. And in the UK, the Palestine Action protesters and people who hold up placards like, pensioners, 85-year-old Holocaust survivors and 90-year-old Holocaust survivors, like they hold up placards and they get arrested. And we are in the Western world basically slowly but surely dismantling our institutions. Some might even say we've never really fully cared about these institutions, but I think this contradiction is forcing people to slowly but surely recognize that Western liberal democracy is dead. It's dying. And I worry about the illiberal, post-liberal, fascist forces that will come out of this process. And I say that as someone who is not only now barred from entering the United Kingdom. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
But also, which is insane. Labor government, by the way.
So wild.
And a former, was it under Keir Starmer?
Yeah, it was under Starmer, right?
That's a former human rights lawyer, right?
Former human rights lawyer.
Unbelievable.
Shabana Mahmood, former pro-Palestine activist.
Yeah. Really?
Shabana
I didn't
Mahmood,
know
who was
that.
the Home Secretary at the time. Yeah. And then also here in the United States of America, the American government is not exactly fond of me either. And they're becoming more openly fascist than ever before. And I worry, once again, unless we examine and try to solve this contradiction, it's going to turn into barbarism.
But there is a global trend, though, that's kind of taken place over the last decade of this very right-wing nationalist, sort of fascist kind of movement growing across the globe.
Yeah.
And I do worry about what you're talking about, but I see that there are a certain class of people that are trying to take advantage of this. When I think of folks like Peter Thiel and all of these tech bros,
techno-fascists,
they have a real opportunity here. If we continue along this trend, they're going to dominate. They're essentially going to be the rulers of this world if we continue along this trend. So I think we're seeing the same trend that's taking place in Israel, but you're seeing it in Europe. Obviously, there are some things that argue against it. Thankfully, the Hungarian elections were, I think, a good sign.
Yeah.
People sort of rejecting it. But even in France, the fact that that very far right party in the most recent election got so many votes.
The Nationalist Party.
Everybody should be very concerned about that. I mean,
AfD in Germany.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of this goes back to what the United States actually is. There's a lot of books about this, but you could there's one really important book that I think people should read is called The Framers' Coup. It's actually the only academic book I know on the framing and the passage of the U.S. Constitution. And to make a really long story short, the guy, the person who wrote it, I think was at Oxford. The U.S. Constitution was basically written to undermine the radical democracy that existed in the states at the time, basically in order to pay off financiers who had taken war bonds from War of Independence veterans. And it wasn't until the Indian genocide was completed, or essentially completed, and slavery was overthrown, that we actually started to develop liberal institutions in the United States. That's when this isn't in the Framers' Code. This is my interpretation, but that's when you get and especially after World War II, you get into the 60s.
Yeah.
The 1960s are a huge moment of awakening, of political awakening, of social awakening. All of a sudden, women and students and minorities and all sorts of other people refused to be silent anymore. Yeah. And there was a big reaction to this. There was on the liberal side, there was the Trilateral Commission. On the conservative side, there was, the Powell Memorandum that, there's a really good podcast series about that from the guys at Lever News. I forget the name
David
of it now.
Sirota.
Yeah, Sirota's.
He's going to get very excited that you mentioned it.
No, it's really worth listening. There's a second part of it now, which I haven't listened to yet, but it's really,
that's my guy.
he does a lot of good work. But that backlash which had, I hate the term, but like bipartisan support, like the kind of the Democratic centrists and the Republicans were both on board with this. The Republicans were more, like the rhetoric was crazier. The liberal internationalists, like, the people that staffed the Carter administration, people like that came afterwards, they were more reasoned and measured. They spoke more like Kamala Harris than like Donald Trump. But but that backlash is very real. It's sustained and it's society wide. That's where student debt comes from. That's where mass incarceration comes from. All these methods of disciplining the population, and Israel or fealty to Israel is kind of a way to be in the cult. I'm in. I know. No. It doesn't matter how many kids they kill. I'm in.
Yeah, I'm good. On
it's
this.
And it really is. It's a very dangerous aspect of our own society that really should bother a lot of people. Like, why is it that our society can function this way?
I think it does. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I think,
but we can change that. Like, we have, like, and when people are trying, like you mentioned, Adam, all these people that are running, and people who are just everyday activists, they're trying to change it, but everybody's got to keep working on it.
Like, I think in a different timeline, anyone that got, I only have my own personal experiences to pull from, obviously, but like, if what was happening in the aftermath of all these electoral victories that we've been able to gain a foothold and like build a coalition of like openly anti-Zionist candidates in the Democratic Party that are demanding an embargo on Israel, demanding accountability for Israel's genocide. Well, that never would have happened under any other media environment. That never would have happened under any other point in American history. However, from the media reception standpoint, like, if 5 years ago every outlet was calling me a anti-Semitic terrorist, it would be over.
Yeah.
It would be over. Now, University of Washington cancels my speech that I was supposed to do in January. It's a publicly funded institution. This is a direct First Amendment violation. All of a sudden, you got NPR, the local NPR affiliate, actually investigating the matter. Like, there's still a lot of pressure. There's still a lot of an unbelievable amount of pressure, as a matter of fact. But like, there was a guy in Detroit that gave me a normal interview after Mallory McMorrow called me a danger to Michiganders, and Abdul inviting me to campaign with him right after the synagogue was attacked by this dude, as though I have something to do with that, or as though Abdul has something to do with that. What's our connection to this person?
Right.
We're all Muslim, right?
Yeah.
The Muslims
and this person was like asking me questions about all of that. They demoted him.
Wow.
7 years. He was the All Things Considered NPR host.
Wow.
For the NPR affiliate in Detroit. And they demoted him, so he quit. So like, there's still this level of pressure that's taking place. I mean, I'm still blacklisted from MS Now, CNN, and Fox News, but at the end of the day, that we still have independent platforms, and we can still, congregate around these issues and still engage in advocacy. So I think that there is a real, real opportunity to make changes.
And they clearly, I mean, even the Trump administration feels the pressure from everyday Americans when they went into this Iran thing this year. I mean, they thought it would be very simple. I'll come out there and I'll say, we can't do this. This is the right thing to do. People rejected that totally on both sides of the aisle. He lost his boy Tucker in the process of this. Yeah. So I mean, I
don't know. I don't really fully trust him, but
what do you mean? Tell me.
With Tucker Carlson?
Yeah.
I think he's far too close to Peter Thiel.
Yeah.
He never talks about Palantir. He never talks about Peter Thiel. He believes in all of these different conspiracies. He believes that, you can be spirits can take over your body, but he won't entertain the real world conspiracy of Palantir, like mass AI backed surveillance technology from Peter Thiel, a man who has blood boys, one of which is JD Vance. JD Vance is not his actual blood boy, but he does have real blood boys, or did. And he's also very close with JD Vance as well. So I think he's
100%. But tell me what you think about why then so publicly be so against the decision to enter into the Iran war for him? Because I I'm trying to piece that together.
Because just like there's factional disagreements within the State Department, I think that there are.
Yeah.
There's a concept amongst, especially the right, called no dumb wars, which is a way to sidestep the issue of being anti-war unconditionally or anti-violence unconditionally, to say, you know, there are some wars that are worthwhile, but this one is dumb. And conservatives peddle that propaganda all the time to basically boost their credibility as like isolationists in name only, I guess. And I suspect that's kind of what Tucker is doing, because like it is a dumb war to go to war with Iran. I mean, look, you know who else is against the war with Iran? The godfathers of the neoconservative movement, like Bill Kristol and Robert Kagan, guys who spent their entire lives initially advocating to do this war with Iran.
Yeah.
And now that it's come, now that it's happening,
and now that it's being prosecuted entirely incompetently. Yeah.
And there is no competent way to prosecute it anyway, because like you can't overcome geography. Like it just doesn't. It's 21 miles wide. They're straight on moves.
That's the interesting thing there. Like, you know, the United States could defeat Iran. We would just have to mobilize our entire society, except, you know, having a 4 million person army, maybe accept 500,000 combat deaths, and probably rip the place to shreds, probably killed, 10 million Iranians in the process.
It would destroy
and
America
we would have to, and then we could spend 30 years doing this. Well, that doesn't seem like a good idea at all.
Yeah.
So instead they want to, they kind of want to have their cake and eat it too, of, we'll just lob some missiles and that's it. And then we'll just pray that the Iranian government is overthrown and we can claim a victory.
That's something I still struggle with, is apparently so many people knew that would not work, right? I mean, that's the whole idea. But still, this guy comes in and does a PowerPoint presentation. Netanyahu comes in and does a PowerPoint presentation, and then suddenly...
And Lindsey Graham, too.
Apparently, it just came out yesterday or the day before, Amman, like the Israeli military intelligence, was saying it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But they went, that's... I mean, these people aren't stupid. I mean, they're not...
Yeah, so what was interesting to me, because I was covering it nonstop, and I kept repeatedly explaining that this was going to be a disaster if we actually implemented it over and over again. And I'm some random guy from the outside, you know what I mean? If I can see it, I'm sure military analysts can too. But one thing that also always is very interesting to me is leading up to the buildup of the Navy Armada, when everyone knew exactly what was about to take place.
Yeah.
General Dan Kane, who is the top pro-Trump general, head of U.S. Central Command, very clearly tried to spell out that we would not be able to maintain air superiority over over the Iranian airspace, and that we would inevitably run out of our standoff munitions that were lobbing the Tomahawk missiles, and we would run out of defensive munitions as well in the process, and erode American military supremacy around the globe, and be declared a paper tiger, as we are currently seeing unfold in real time. And because Trump didn't listen to him, he went to the media. And that was very interesting, because this is a Trump loyalist, right? And he went out there, he went chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, not CENTCOM.
Yeah.
CENTCOM is another guy who's insanely pro-Israel, Brad Cooper, I think.
Sounds right.
Yeah, he's a very strange guy. Anyway, so in any case, Raising Cane, he went to the media and he leaked it. He leaked that this was not going to work. And yet they still did it. And I cannot understand, like, is Trump that easily manipulated? Like, that he was just like, I got a massive victory in Venezuela. This is going to be the same decapitation strike. And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, complete societal collapse. They're not even thinking about the success of that campaign, because that would have still, I think, yielded a tremendous instability. Because even if the decapitation worked, and let's say they armed the Kurds, and then there was ethnic tensions that they were able to successfully foment, and then there's mass instability. This is an unbelievably diverse country with 93 million people.
It's a huge place.
Yeah.
It's a huge country with a massive defense industry in and of itself, with varying degrees of hardliners that, are going to seek out revenge. Like, even the most successful initiative would have collapsed the entire region. Because then, even if the IRGC, some of the units decided, all right, we're blowing up every oil refinery in the region, then what do you do?
Yeah.
It just blows my mind.
But that's what the Israelis wanted. They wanted a failed rogue state, right?
Yeah.
With no air defenses.
yeah, they wanted Libya.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
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 They
I think
wanted-
that was actually the model.
Yeah.
And so, but it's just nobody said this. The Israelis' interests here are very different than ours. Yeah, they're our boys, but this is not. This doesn't make any sense. I mean, it seems like Rubio, Vance, all knew that it was a terrible idea. They just didn't have, I don't know, the backbone. I'm not sure. I know the pitch to Trump was clear. It was, no president has ever been able to do this. You're going to kill it. Everybody's going to love you. This is phenomenal. You got to do it. You'll be the best ever. And he's like, okay, run it. You know, like I'm sure that was the pitch, but you have all these people around you just, you know, not able to say this is the worst idea we've ever heard.
I think it's part of the general decline in American governance that's been going on. Again, like, you know, go back to the backlash to the 60s. Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton, whatever you think about them, they're very intelligent. They were micromanagers. They, really into the details. You know, like if you read Carter's memoir about his time at the Camp David, you know, trying to get the Egyptians and the Israelis to sign a peace agreement. He's just talking about like the micromanaging these details. It's really quite incredible. Same thing with Clinton. Not that I agree with either one of them about almost anything, but they're still impressive people. Then you get to somebody like Barack Obama, who's not, like George Bush, Barack Obama era. These people are both just kind of celebrities. They're not really that into the details. They're not really that into actually.
But at least they had a competent team that they were.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, at least they had like competent human beings about them. Then you get to Biden and Trump, and you're just like, both of these people are surrounded by psychophantic lunatics,
and it's a small circle.
It's a small circle where they don't want to talk to anybody else.
Yes,
they don't. You know,
Biden served in the IDF.
Yeah,
he
like
did.
that's he's the top guy in charge of Israel relations in Lebanon, and he served in the IDF. Yeah. And Brett McGurk has like business ties to the entire region, including to Israel as well. And these are the two primary people that are in Biden's ear. Yeah, and Biden himself was a zealot too.
Biden himself is a committed zealot and also, obviously very confused most of the time. Yeah. But like this also goes to this is all like this change in American governance is really compounded by Citizens United, just my opinion. But it's like because at that point, like, Trump is kind of a unique example of it. He's basically in power because of tech billionaires, Zionist billionaires, exactly, and all of which is developed under the Bush administration. 9/11 gives it a real kick in the, or I should say the reaction to 9/11 gives it a big kick in the pants. We did this to ourselves. And and actually it brings up a good point. Like all of that, all of the post 9/11, like the Patriot Act, all of these changes in the way our society works. Al Qaeda didn't do that to us. Al Qaeda blew up the towers. We decided to take away our own civil liberties. We decided to ruin our own election system.
Security,
we decided to create this system that bothers Thayer and detains him when he comes home from not even getting into Palestine. He just went to Jordan and hung out in the Amman Paradise Hotel. We both spent way too much time in that place. Yeah. This is we're doing this to ourselves. This fealty to Israel, we're doing this to ourselves. We do not have to live like this, but we got to make the choice. We got to get off our butts and do it.
And one thing I'll say about Biden, which again points to the fact, like really this is the sort of the end of democracy, is you're exactly right. I mean, I saw this guy. I looked at him and it's clear he did not want to die thinking that his legacy may be tarnished by doing something for the Palestinians. He is somebody who grew up in that generation that the Holocaust was the worst thing ever and that supporting Israel was the moral imperative.
Was the right reaction to the Holocaust.
No matter what, right? Yeah. And so he wanted to die. That's the president of the United States thinking in that way about his legacy, like he knows he's in his final days. I mean, we're in trouble. And it's the fact that he's got only a few people around him that are willing to say, you're right, boss. All good.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the
Trump
thing,
even telling him like this is a good idea, even giving him additional tools,
right,
because again they were zealots. Like it was an entire team of zealots, up close and personal that were also just as like ideologically invested. In the great Israel project.
These people are all. I mean, they'd be more or less ideologically, I don't know, than Biden, but they were much more coherent and much more capable in those ways. Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
I'm just surprised, and I hate to bring up Rubio again. I don't want to give him too much, honestly, space, but like, I'm surprised he stayed in that position because of how emasculating it is. You're not the Secretary of State. Witkoff and Kushner are the Secretary of State. Anytime Papa Trump needs serious work done, he sends those guys. You're just kind of sitting around and kind of on this quest when it comes to like Latin America or South America, but you're not really making any real decisions. Like, why is that guy still in place? And we've got these two other folks who are securing the business interests of Trump while also dictating our foreign policy in the Middle East. It blows my mind.
Yeah, you remember the primary when Trump was just ruthlessly mocking Rubio and Ted Cruz, impugning their wives, and all sorts of like I don't think pride is part of their calculation.
It's power. It's power.
It's a lust for power.
Proximity
It's
to power.
pathetic.
Like for Rubio, I think it's all worth it at the end of the day because he gets to do things that we're doing, things that we're aiding.
Whatever he wants to do to Cuba.
In Cuba and in Latin America as well, the Donroe Doctrine and whatnot.
It tells you something about an American politician that he's willing to emasculate himself. He's willing to wear the wrong size shoes that Trump demands. He's willing to let Trump humiliate him and embarrass him in all these ways for like 8 years straight. First in the primary and then all through the Trump or the Biden administration, and then now, all so that he can destroy an entirely defenseless island off the coast of Cuba that he's never been to. It's just shocking. Like yours, it really gets back to what our society is and what we need to do to change it.
All right, so we got to wrap this up. You guys have given us so much time, and thank you so much for coming on. This was a wonderful conversation.
Appreciate you.
Film American Doctor is premiering in theaters across the United States and Canada. How can people watching at home find tickets to screenings near them?
Please, if it's not screening near you, talk to your independent theaters and tell them you want American Doctor to be screened. Otherwise, we're going to major cities, Chicago, we'll be in all across the U.S. Please buy tickets to this. It allows us to push the conversation forward about Palestine and Gaza and continue to kind of push this message forward. The more that we get sort of butts in seats, the more that we're able to show everybody that people still care about Palestine, even though it's out of the news networks.
And you can follow American Doctor Film on Instagram, and AmericanDoctorFilm.com, I think, has all the locations.
Yeah. So last question, you gave me this pin, Free Dr. Hasan Abu Safia, and you were wearing it on your Democracy Now! Interview as well. He's been held without charge for nearly 2 years now, reportedly beaten with a hammer. His son was killed. What do you want people who've never heard his name to know about the good doctor?
I mean, Dr. Hassam did things that I don't think any single American or European physician will be able to do. He's in his hospital while the Israeli military surrounded, while they killed his son, to bury his son, compound hospital. He had multiple options to get to safety out of Gaza with his family, and he could not abandon his patients. And for that reason, is precisely why the Israeli military had to abduct him and is keeping him without charge, along with 13 other senior Palestinian doctors. They don't want the guys that should be leading the recovery and the reconstruction and healing Palestinians actually doing that, because it will promote the ethnic cleansing and the forced displacement of Palestinians.
Hassam Abu Safia, people come up to us after these screenings and they're like, "Oh, you guys are heroes. I'm so proud to get to meet you in person." It's like, no, you should meet these Palestinian healthcare workers. These people are just shockingly decent, and Hassam is one of them. You've met him. I haven't. I never got to meet him. But he's being slowly killed in an Israeli torture chamber right now. It's called the Raqafet prison, or I'm probably mispronouncing it, but and he will die in that prison if the U.S. government doesn't force Israel to release him, and we can't just abandon him there. Like you said, but along with more than a dozen others.
He wrote 2 op-eds in the New York Times.
Yeah.
He's a very funny guy. He's a sweet guy. The world should know who this guy is. He should not be trapped behind bars. The world should actually know who this person is. And many of the people there, Dr. Nahed, Dr. Mahmoud, all the people that are in these Israeli dungeons, they are the best of us, and we're both physicians in our careers now. We're not junior docs. We know when we see talented people, and these people in Palestine, these healthcare workers, man, they are good at what they do. They do so much with so little. And it's a damn shame that they were targeted along with the journalists and so many of the other professionals that helped build that amazing society despite the siege and the blockade.
Yeah.
All right. American Doctor, hopefully coming to a theater near you.
Oh, and Hasan, sorry, but you have the backing of all of the doctors and nurses that went to Gaza. Any way we can support you, your voice is so important. Please keep doing what you're doing.
No, it's vice versa. I should support you guys. I'm good. I'm doing all right, But thank you.
We're
Thank
here
you
for
so
each
much
other.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate you, brother.
Good to be
And
back.
I'll probably see you guys at the. You're going to be at the screening, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I'll see
absolutely.
you there then. I'll be
Sweet.
there.
Thank you.
All right.